position environment at the top of the strategic priorities of the Agenda 2030 and all post-recovery public policies. Mountains covering approximately 24% of the Earth's surface are areas of rich cultural and biological diversity and provide an array of vital goods and services to people living in the mountains and downstream. The Hindu Kush Himalaya, hosting the world's highest peaks, unique cultures, rich and diverse flora and fauna, vast ice and snow reserves, and permafrost, and is a global treasure trove. It provides water resources, food, energy, and vital ecosystem services to almost a quarter of the global population, both living in the mountains as well as in the valleys and plain downstreams. The climate of Hindu Kush Himalaya has changed significantly and is predicted to change more drastically in the coming years, be it the floods in Afghanistan and Pakistan, fires in Nepal and India, or droughts in China and Afghanistan. The region is witnessing the catastrophic impacts of climate change. Hindu Kush Himalaya has been experiencing a rising trend of extreme warm events over the past few decades and falling trends on extreme cold events, which is projected to continue in the future. At a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, the region is predicted to lose one-third of its glacier mass by end of this century. The negative impact of climate change in Hindu Kush Himalaya are complex transboundary. Climate change and its cascading risks like floods, biodiversity loss, increasing water and food insecurity, and air pollution need innovative solutions, robust mechanisms, regional approaches, and cutting-edge technologies, and also evidence-based policies, which can never be developed and scaled up without international commitment and support. Afghanistan, as a member country of the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, is ranked among the most vulnerable countries to the adverse impacts of climate change. Afghanistan initial national communication report has documented an increase of 0.6 degrees Celsius in the country's mean annual temperature since 1960s. Based upon recent climate observations, precipitation patterns have decreased during springtime, March to May, by approximately 40.5 millimeters. This implies that Afghanistan is already beginning to experience the initial adverse impacts of climate change. Meanwhile, Afghanistan remains one of the poorest countries in the world today, with an estimated population of 14 million and per capita GDP is around 1 USD per day. IPC reports shows that this year around 45% of Afghan population are experiencing high level of acute food insecurity, which is classified in IPC phase 3 and 4 and crisis and emergency. Although the contribution of agriculture to GDP is only around 26%, this sector remains an important source of employment and livelihood for poor and vulnerable people. An absolute majority of the population, around 80%, relies directly or indirectly on agriculture and the available natural resources for their livelihoods. But unfortunately, with climatic changes and the potential climate-induced risks, the foundation of the country's economy, stability, and food security is under threat. If not addressed adequately, could pose significant challenges to the sectoral gains of the last 20 years. While despite suffering decades of instability and war, Afghanistan has made considerable development progresses. Over the recent decades, notable achievements have been made in the areas of environment, agriculture, health, education, infrastructure, and the economy, and also with the provision of the other important basic services. Afghanistan's initiative for environmental protection, adaptation, and mitigation to climate change include developing the first nationally determined contribution that pledged a reduction of 13.6% in greenhouse gas emissions upon the availability of an estimated 17.4 billion USD. Currently, Afghanistan is finalizing its National Adaptation Plan, as well as the National Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, Through these plans and the nationally determined contribution processes, our overall vision is to enhance the adaptive capacity and resilience of Afghanistan's agriculture, environment, and population to climate change, while developing and implementing low emission development strategies. Based on historical trends and future projections of temperature and precipitation levels, the sectors with the highest adaptation needs in Afghanistan are water, agriculture, forests and rangelands, energy, ecosystem, biodiversity, and health. Afghanistan can remain a low emission economy while developing rapidly. It is therefore critical that under the Paris Agreement, extensive financial resources, capacity building, technology transfer, and other supports to be provided and made available to allow Afghanistan to successfully implement low emission development strategies and highly effective adaptive and development strategies. This will allow Afghanistan to continue developing while maintaining low level of emissions and increasing adaptive capacity of climate change. ICMOD and its partnering countries, under the Ministerial Declaration of October 2020, are in the process to develop a high-level institutional mechanism for regional cooperation among 8 Hindu Kush Himalaya countries on issues of common interest and benefit. Considering the need for investment in the region, ICMOD is currently developing an investment framework, Mountain of Opportunity Investment Framework, to mobilize resources for the region. This will include investors from different sectors, both public and private. We appreciate ICMOD's work on mobilizing investments that could enable Hindu Kush Himalaya region to transition towards greener, more inclusive, and climate resilient development. We extend our support to ICMOD for further developing it along with other alliance partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khalid Saibzada, representative of the government of Afghanistan, for sharing his views and giving the remarks. No doubt climate change is impacting all the 8 countries at varying levels with varying intensity. So let's go to the second, our important regional member country. I'm delighted to have Said Najmul Hassan here from the government of Bangladesh. Syed Najmul Hassan is the Director for Environment, Air Pollution Wing, working in the Ministry of Environment and Forest in Bangladesh. May I have your remarks, sir? Welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. All I would like to thank Imo inviting me in the important on and also thank to the speaker for her valuable presentation. So yeah, I would like to share with you that Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries, like other Hindu area or region countries like Nepal, Bhutan, and India, and also. Every day or every year, we are losing our natural resources like depletion of forest, depletion of our national land, and also we are facing the air pollution, water pollution, and so on. So, though individually each and every country, like Bangladesh, we are trying to improve our air quality or water quality, everything, but we due to some limitation and other things, we are unable to control air pollution and so on. So, I am very much hopeful if in regional level we can develop a public-private partnership program, or we can invite or accommodate the donor agency and other investors to improve our environmental condition and as well as our natural resource management. and then we will be able to improve our human condition as well as our nature. We can save our nature. So I must appreciate in the regional level, IMO has taken the initiative. So I do hope in future we'll be able to develop the program. And on behalf of Bangladesh, I can assure you, we will cooperate with you very, very strongly. Thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind remarks. May I request Mr. Namge Thinle? I'm sorry if I not correctly pronounce your name, sir. Uh, Mr. Namge Thinle is the Chief Agriculture Officer working in the Directorate of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, Government of Bhutan. So may I request you, sir, for your remarks, please.
Warm greetings from the people of Kingdom of Bhutan. Good morning and Kuzangbo, honorable secretaries, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Isimot, for inviting us to this very important event. It's our pleasure to attend this important program organized by Isimot by the sideline of COP27. Mountains of Opportunity Investment Framework is an important strategy document of SMART and the regional member countries, which sets out priority investment areas of regional countries in our fight against the impact of climate change and other emerging issues. As it has been set out by our earlier speakers, our region stands to be acutely vulnerable to climate change, and the nations in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region experiences the impacts of climate change before anywhere else in the world. Therefore, at a time when the global communities are gathered for this important program, we would like to stand in solidarity with Isimot in our support for call towards increasing engagement and investment in the mountains for development. Bhutan has been part of the process in developing this investment framework and would like to inform that the document precisely captures the climate concerns and priorities of our country. Bhutan experiences increasing impact of climate change. The agriculture and the hydropower sector, which are important sectors for food security and economic growth, are very much climate sensitive. Climate change impacts such as heat and drought, erratic rainfall, pests and diseases, water shortages, and increasing temperature have devastating impact on the production system and productivity of the agriculture sector. Given that half of Bhutanese population actively depends on agriculture, makes climate change an important issue for agriculture sustainability, food security, and poverty. On our part, we remain committed to addressing the climate change. At the helm of it, we commit to conserve environment and forest for perpetuity and remain firm our resolve to maintain carbon neutrality. We have embarked upon climate smart agriculture, which will be further strengthened in the upcoming planned programs. For instance, in collaboration with ICIMOT, we are implementing resilient mountain solution activities, ecosystem management, climate smart agriculture and livestock farming, and value chain development. ICIMOT also supports Bhutan in weather forecasting, black carbon monitoring besides supporting farmers with alternative income generation activities such as homestay and ecotourism. Sorry. Even as we gear towards addressing the climate challenge, we realize that fight against climate change will require collective ownership and continued international support. The synergistic effects of our collective actions are going to reap much more benefit than the countries implementing the climate change measures individually. To that end, ICIMOT, with pool of expertise, has been in the forefront in the region in our fight against climate change. They have the ability to bring the regional member countries and international communities together in pursuit of shared interest. Moreover, ICIMOT's extensive engagement in the regional member spanning over the last 4 decades have the acumen, experience, and ability for larger impact. Therefore, we would like to once yet again solicit the support of government, private sectors, financial institutions, and development partners to raise awareness around the climate crisis in the Hindu Kush Himalaya and opportunities to strengthen the resilience of mountain communities and economics. Together, we have the potential to fix the climate change problem on which the lives of millions in mountain communities and billions downstream hinges on. I take this opportunity to thank ISIMOT for organizing this very important program and also thank all the distinguished delegates for being part of this program. Thank you and Tashtili.
Thank you so much, uh, Namge Thinle sir, for your kind remarks. We have our esteemed high-level task force member from China joined us online. Can we have his message, please? We are not taking their opinion online because of the internet issue, so we got the recorded messages. So we are running that. Udain, our task force member from China is Professor Dr. Yang Yongpin. He is a deputy director at the Xishuang Bang Tropical Botanical Garden, which is a part of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. He will be speaking on behalf of the Board of Governors from China.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor to be invited by ICIMO to speak here on behalf of the high-level task force member from China. My name is Yang Yongping from the Xishangbana Tropical Botanical Garden, Chinese Academy of Sciences. At the same time, I feel great sorry not to attend personally in the Hindu Kush Himalaya high-level events in Egypt. Hindu Kush Himalaya, having the world's highest peak, ancient culture, diverse flora and fauna, a vast reserve of the snow and ice outside the polar regions, is indeed a global asset. HKH provided water resources, food, energy, and vital ecosystem service to almost a quarter of the global population. The climate of HKH has already changed significantly, and is projected to change more dramatically in the future. The warming rate over the past 50 years has been 2.2 degrees per decade in the HKH. There has been a rising incidence of extreme warming events in the HKH over the past 5 to 6 decades, and the falling trends of the extremely cold events. This is projected to continue in the future. Even if global warming is limited to 1.5 degrees, warming will be at least 0.23 to 0.7 degrees higher in the HKH in the coming years. At the 1.5 degree, the region is predicted to lose 1/3 of its glacier by the end of this century. HKH is facing a colossal climate crisis. COP27 is an important occasion for ICIMO and for its regional member country to raise the one united voice about the global significance of the Hindu-Kush Himalaya. The climate crisis it is facing and the needs for the investments to support climate action in the HKH region. Concerted action at all levels is, therefore, inevitable to keep global warming below the 1.5 degree by the 2100s. On one hand, we need to take urgent action to sharply reduce the emission of the short-lived climate pollutants, including from the biomass and the agriculture, reduce the burning and the shifting to the clean energy sources. On the other hand, we also need to embed disaster resilient measures in all development plans, strategies, policies, and better address the risk from the flood, drought, and glacial lake outburst flood, and so on. And based on the comprehensive disaster mapping, put in place disaster risk financing and the risk transfer mechanism for the region. But above all, international cooperation is required to address the cascading the hazard risk of the climate change, further compounding the transboundary risk like flood, biodiversity loss, increasing water and food insecurity, and even risk air pollution in the region. HKH, such as China and India, have significantly increased their commitments to reduce the emission in their NDCs and the net zero target after COP26. While others like Bhutan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and Myanmar have launched the large-scale adaptation and mitigation program at the country level. Pursued by the Ministerial Declaration of the October 2020, the HKH higher-level task force of the 8 regional member countries are in the process to configure a high-level institutional mechanism for the regional cooperation on the transboundary issues in the HKH, considering the needs to be investments in the region. HMOD is currently developing the investment framework, Mountain of Opportunity Investment Framework, to mobilize the resources for the region. This will include the investor from the different sectors, both public and private. It is indeed the needs of our. Hence, I welcome ICIMO's efforts to leverage finance for making climate resilient HKH. I believe, together with the international support, this mechanism will help address the ranges of the complex challenge that HKH is facing today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yong Yong Ping, for your remarks. May I now request Ms. Namita Prasad, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, for your remarks, Madam.
A very good morning to everybody. And thank you, Dr. Babar and Isi Mode, for taking this initiative. And it is my pleasure to deliver the remarks of Government of India regarding especially with regard to the investment proposal that has been outlined by Isi Mode. And I will first start with facts. They bear repeating because they're so important. And sometimes you miss in the facts lies the story actually. So just to recap, which all the other speakers also have said, the Hindu Kush Himalaya hosts the world's largest peaks, the most unique cultures, the rich and diverse flora and fauna, vast ice and snow reserves, and permafrost, and is a global treasure trove. It feeds Asia's 10 major rivers that irrigates one of the largest food baskets and sustains some of the world's most populated regions. It provides vital goods and ecosystem services to 240 billion people living in the mountains and supports another 1.9 billion living downstream and supports an economy worth $4 trillion every year. Like other mountain regions in the world, the HKH has been experiencing an unprecedented and extensive change over the last 2 decades, and impacts are projected to worsen with time. Even a 1.5-degree rise is too hot for the HKH because of elevation dependent warming, increasing the cascading risks both upstream as well as downstream. Dust and black carbon settling on the Himalayan glaciers are projected to accelerate the snow and ice melting, change rainfall patterns, and impact agriculture, water, sanitation, hydropower, fisheries, with far reaching consequences for human as well as environmental health. With increasing emissions from agricultural fields, brick kilns, wildfires, and automobiles, the HKH and adjoining plains are fast becoming one of the most polluted regions in the world. The mountain communities in the developing world are particularly vulnerable to climate change because of widespread poverty, the high dependence on natural resources for livelihood, and higher exposure to climate risks. Mountain ecosystems with their many threatened endemic species are particularly sensitive to climate impacts and are being affected at a faster rate than any other terrestrial habitat. COP27 is happening at a time when every nook and corner of the world is facing the brunt of climate change. In this backdrop, we need to rethink the successes and failures of the current climate change policy as well as its action. The current pace of breadth, depth of mitigation, and adaptation responses are no longer effective for addressing the existing as well as the emerging risks. And some regions, like the mountains that are on the front line of climate change, they need special attention. Without proactive policies and greater international recognition and investment, climate and environmental change will only reinforce and amplify current and future disparities and vulnerabilities. The very intent and motivation of to the collective climate action is going to be the key. Individual actions, commitments, and investments are not going to be adequate. For the HKH region, together with the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, we, the 8 regional member countries Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan have begun the regional HKH call to action to harness the collective commitment of 8 countries in the HKH. India, as a responsible nation of the HKH region, is fully committed to keep the mercury below 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2021. We have revised our NDCs, and if you look at the point 6 of our NDCs, which says to better adapt to climate change by enhancing investments in development programs in sectors vulnerable to climate change, particularly agriculture, water resources, the Himalayan region, the coastal regions, health and disaster management. So this is how we recognize, especially that the impact of climate change is going to have a lot of impacts on the Himalayan region, and we really want to work with regard to adaptation as well as other measures which can help ameliorate these conditions which climate change will affect. We welcome ISIMOD's work on mobilizing investments that would enable HKH to transition towards a greener, more inclusive, and a more climate resilient development. Hence, developing mountains of opportunity investment framework would be very useful and is a need of the hour. We extend the Government of India's support to ISIMOD for further developing it along with other alliance partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for your excellent and wonderful remarks. This obviously is the reason that we are all here with our leadership from the region to discuss the existing and emerging challenges that the Hindu Kush Himalaya is facing, and that's impacting the communities living there as well as many of billions of the people living downstream in the valleys and plains. But its impacts are even go beyond the basins and uh, plains of South Asia. It's sometimes we think that the risks and impacts emanating from the region could even affect the global community. It's already affecting almost a quarter of the global community. So it's really important to be considered in the highest level global forums and discussions, and need to work on some of these challenges that are urgent in a way to be addressed. Now, may I request Dr. Prem Narayan Kadal, the Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Forest and Environment, Government of Bhutan, Government of Nepal.
Thank you, Dr. Babarji. Respected member of the High Level Task Force, Regional Program Manager, and colleagues from the EC Board, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the beginning, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the EC Board for convening HKH High Level event on moving mountain, prioritizing investment need for climate resilient HKH here in Sharm el-Sheikh Climate COP27. We think this is a landmark event to unite HKS countries to highlight the urgency of climate action for the world, particularly the most vulnerable HKS region. Nepal is one of the 8 countries which is in the center of HKS region. It is also important to note that Nepal is a fairly mountainous country known as the capital of the mountain, having 10 out of the 14 highest peak of the world. That includes Mount Everest, the highest summit of the earth. EC Board is an imperative regional mountain research and knowledge center located in the capital city of Nepal. We know HKH is a miniature. It's a home of life, culture, beauty, biodiversity, landscape, language, and many more. It is the source of clean drinking water for downstream countries, close to 2 billion people. The HKH known as the pulse of the planet. But despite the global importance, the questions have been raised why the HKH remains behind and most neglected region in the world. We political and administrative leaders are accountable and have to analyze the development policy and strategy to find the right way for making HKH region more prosperous. Moreover, the force of climate change and globalizations are the causing disorder on the fragile assets, disturbing resources, communities, and culture. Studies show that HK is getting more warmer for the last few decades and is predictable to be hotter in the coming years and decades. If the global warming continue, a large part of the HKS glacier mass will be melt away, enormously impacting agriculture, food, energy system, and livelihood system of the region. The Samsek Climate COP27 is known as the climate action. COP hence on behalf of the HKH country, we must make our common voice and agenda. So that is very important for us to make our common voice on behalf of the mountainous country, on behalf of the HKH country. The recent NDC synthesized report revealed that there is a big emission gap between target and action. Thus, the window of global warming limiting 1.55, even keeping below 2 degrees Celsius, is almost closing. And temperature likely to be reached nearly 3 degrees centigrade in this century. So this is not very good news for the mountainous country. Thus, our common voice must be on pushing developed and developing country to raise more climate ambition through updating their NDC. So we have to push this issue to the global community that their NDC, nationally determined contribution, should be upgraded so that the limit 1.5 degree can be reached. Nepal has raised very high climate ambition in updated NDC, aims to reach net zero by 2045, earlier than the global target. Sorry. We have clearly designed the sustainable development pathway as the green, resilient, and inclusive development grid, which is very much aligned with the vision of set by EC mode for the region. Thus, Nepal is firmly committed in climate action and sustainable mountain development. But the resource gap, capacity, and technology are the key issue to translate commitment into implementation. Mountain is always core agenda of HKS country to raise common voice in multilateral global environmental negotiation process and climate change discourse like climate COP. But the mountain has not given that much priority in the global negotiation endeavors. So that is the key issues. Mountain countries therefore must be together to influence global communities to put mountain ecosystem in priorities. Sixth Global Mountain Partnership meeting, which comprises 94 countries, organized in last September in Aspen, Colorado of United States, and deliver Aspen Declaration for Sustainable Mountain Development. It is important to inform you that mountainous country working hard and agree to incorporate mountain agenda in climate COP28. At least we like to put this agenda in climate COP28, if possible this time. But it seems that it is unlikely. It is not that much possible. So because agenda has been already endorsed by the COP presidency in the first day of the meeting. So maybe we'll try to incorporate the key agenda, mountain agenda in COP28. Most importantly, adaptation, resilient, and loss and damage must be our common agenda in this COP. Although adaptation has been well recognized by the Glasgow Climate Pact and 2 years comprehensive Glasgow SAMSEC work program on the global adaptation has been stipulated in the Climate Pact, financial mechanism to translate the program yet to be ensured. So there is no any such mechanism to address the adaptation resilient that has been already agreed but not ensured. That is the issue that we have to raise. SKS country have to raise in this climate COP27. It is good news that loss and damage endorsed by multilateral negotiation process and agenda has been included by Egyptian COP presidency for the future discourse. So this agenda has been already included in the agenda, and this is very good news. In this endeavor, our common voice can facilitate to approve the agenda in the COP and setting up appropriate separate funding mechanism for loss and damage. So first and foremost, we have to endorse or we have to push to endorse loss and damage. Then we need the financial mechanism to translate into action. So that is our next agenda. We have to prioritize in this scope. So distinguished task force and members and delegates, climate action is only possible with adequate financial resources, capacity, technology, and commitment. Therefore, climate finance must be leading agenda in Sharm el-Sheikh COP27. So we are tracking the climate action, climate implementation COP. If it is so, then we do need lot of resources, technology, capacity, and commitment. So this is another agenda we have to think. SKS country has to commonly raise the voice about the climate finance. So this is another agenda we have to raise. Our common voice enhance power to ensure the developed nation to allocate USD 100 billion commitment that has not been implemented yet. So this is the agenda. And increasing the financial portfolio for adaptation and establishing the separate funding mechanism for loss and damage. So these are the agenda that we have to raise. SKS country has to push to this COP27. As we know, HKH range consists of the youngest, highest, largest, and most fragile mountain on the earth. That we already know. ICIMOD, as an intergovernmental institution of HKH region, made outstanding achievement in generating science-based evidence of the mountain ecosystem. The greatest impact have been reflected in the form of the evidence-based policy, which is very important, and other decision-making process, and formulation of regional and creating the global attention of the challenge, potentiality, and opportunity of the HKH region. So ICIMOD is doing very credible job. So impact is very good. So we have to recognize today about the work of the ECMOD. As I know, ECMOD is undergoing its institutional reform to handle the changing context. Let us strengthen ECMOD and utilize its capacity as the regional coordinating organization to be engaged more on global multilateral negotiation process to raise our common voice. So who raise our common voice? That is the key issue. Maybe member countries can allow to EC mode to raise the common issues in the multilateral environmental negotiation process. That is another reform, maybe EC mode or member country, we have to think on this. This is my or our recommendation. Reflecting on urgent need for action to achieve a sustainable, climate resilient, inclusive, and nature-based SKS development. This is the vision of Nepal and also vision of the ICIMO. So this high-level meeting could be a milestone to create enable environment that promotes for public and private investment in climate action and sustainable SKS development. So public and private investment is very much important. So we have to create the enable environment in the region so that private sector can invest for sustainable mountain development and climate change mitigation and adaptation. So this is the key direction I would like to request or recommend to move forward. So protecting the pulse of the planet, as our colleague already mentioned, that is mountain and HKH is the pulse of the planet. Without this landmass or mountain, this planet cannot be sustained. That is the message. You know, if it is so, then the regional cooperation, more consistent and synchronized effort, more sharing of innovative solution, and more global attention to HKH. Because global attention, I don't know why mountain is so important. We all are talking about, but in the negotiation process, in the process of discussion and discourse, this issue has not been given so much priority. So that is the key issue. Maybe we need to influence more. Our common voice is very much important to influence the global community and influence them that mountain is very much important. This is the pulse of the planet. Without this, you know, mountain, you cannot make this planet living even. You know, so this message is important to deliver for the global community. So that is another recommendation I would like to put in this important forum. Let us strengthen the regional collaboration. Then we need collaboration. No single person, no single country can handle these issues. Then we need the collaboration, common effort, common voice. So that is the important and enhance the capacity of EC mode. I'm looking, you know, any institutional setting is important. Luckily we have EC mode. Let us strengthen this EC mode so that it can lead our issue to highlight the mountain, to highlight the SKF to the global community, to make region more influential in multilateral global negotiation process. I'm mentioning many times this multilateral global environmental global agreement process. So this is very much important, like COP, CBD, and other initiative. But the key question is that why mountain is not separate entity under the UN system? Do you believe that there is CBD? That is, you know, UNFCCC. There are other mechanisms, but mountain ecosystem is not keeping in separate entity. Maybe they think that this is cross-cutting. This is not the cross-cutting. This is different in feature, in characteristics, in importance. So this is what we have to think. That is the message I would like to deliver on behalf of Nepal, on behalf of government of Nepal. Thank you very much. I wish a very successful event. You have a lot of event, I see the list. So I wish you a very successful event ahead. I thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kandel, for your enlightening remarks. It's really encouraging to hear that, particularly on the recommendation sides, what we need to actually take up and how we can take up it. I'm hopeful that in the future we will be having more opportunities to learn from you, listen to you, and then put really concrete and doable recommendations for the regional cooperation and many other things which you mentioned to take forward. Our last representative from Pakistan, I would like to request Said Mushtaba Hussain, Senior Joint Secretary from Ministry of Climate Change, Government of Pakistan, to share your views, please.
Very good morning to all colleagues, and thank you, Isimod, for inviting us to this very important event. First of all, on behalf of the government of Pakistan, I would like to say that we are committed to the cooperation that is being extended in this regard. And we would like to be a part of the process, being one of the important stakeholders in the mountain communities, or what you may call the mountain ecosystem. And enough has been said regarding the importance of mountain ecosystems by colleague from Nepal and others. And I would like to sort of emphasize on the point of cooperation in terms of collaboration between institutions like ECMOD and institutions in Pakistan. We have a research arm by the name of Global Change Impact Study Center in Pakistan that is doing a lot of research on a number of factors, including research on the glacial lake outburst floods in Pakistan. And I would like to inform the participants here that Pakistan, being one of the most highly vulnerable countries in the region, and as you would know that we recently had a very huge climate extreme event in Pakistan, whereby 33 million people got affected from one just big event. And these are not just like one-off events, but they are recurring events which are coming again and again with increased intensity and frequency, highlighting the fact that countries like Pakistan and others in the region are vulnerable to climate change. And as you may know that the global average temperature in Pakistan is more than the global average temperature that we take on a global level, and especially the north of Pakistan, where the temperature rises more as compared to the south of Pakistan, which is a real alarming situation for a country like Pakistan. And in this respect, being one of the, I would say, apart from the polar regions where the amount of glaciers are considered to be the water tower of the world. So in that respect, any small temperature rise that happens in the north of Pakistan can have a very devastating effect on the rest of Pakistan. And the plain areas and the south of Pakistan is considered to be the food basket of Pakistan. Imagine extreme events which are happening in the north, which can have such a devastating impact on the rest of the population of Pakistan. And mind you, we are a population of almost like 250 million people. Officially, it is 220, but the figure is much more than that. So, to highlight the significance of regional cooperation, it is very important that we share the knowledge and the understanding on early warning and early forecasting. Had we had such kind of interaction between our regional institutions like EC Mode or others, it would have really reduced the level of damages that we have recently faced in Pakistan. So regional cooperation is very important, and we need to structure this regional cooperation in a more formalized fashion. Because informally, I would understand that EC Mode prepares a number of papers and that are available globally, but it needs to be put in a structured arrangement. And I would also like to inform the participants here that we have a project by the name of decreasing the vulnerabilities of communities in the north of Pakistan from the effects of glacial lake outburst floods. We had initially a project which was funded by the Adaptation Fund. It was on a pilot level. It was a small project to the tune of 4.6 million. And now and then in the last, like in 2015-16, rather 2017, our project got approved from the Green Climate Fund. And it is to the tune of 37 million US dollars. And it is the activities are taking place in two important regions of Pakistan, where we have more than 3,000 glacial lakes already formed. And out of these 3,000 glacial lakes, 33 have been identified as the most dangerous or from the impacts of temperature rise. And as you may know, that we had a very big loft event back in April this year, whereby the Shispur Glacier, which is one of the big glaciers, the lake formed in that glacier bursted, and it damaged the infrastructure downstream. So this project is having a lot of impact in terms of reducing the vulnerabilities of the communities in the north of Pakistan. And from this project, there are a number of activities which are taking place. It is the developing the capacity of the vulnerable communities in the north to prepare for such disasters. So that is one. It also involved the installation of technology whereby early warning systems and automatic weather stations are being installed in the northern regions of Pakistan. And also there are adaptation structures that are put in place whereby any kind of disaster, what if it happens, then those structures minimize and reduces the risks of the communities living downstream. So the point that I would like to make by highlighting this example is that HKH region is highly prone to such kind of disasters. And it is so very important that we need to seek financial assistance from such global funds like the Green Climate Fund and others, so that we develop the resilience of the communities and the poor communities who live in the northern regions of the HKH region. I would also like to highlight and inform the participants that, from the vulnerability perspective, it is not only the glaciers which are melting in Pakistan, but we have a number of climate extreme events. We have droughts, and in the months of March and April, our mercury had actually risen to more than 53 degrees Celsius in the southern regions of Pakistan. So, which is I would say, where life cannot take place at such temperatures. I mean, So you can well imagine that such kind of collaboration is not only from this perspective, but it has to be in a number of sectors. And in the end, I would like to again emphasize upon the structured collaboration from different institutions who are working on research and development in the field of climate change to come forward and formalize this arrangement. So with these words, I would like to thank the sponsor, AC Mode, and I wish you all the good luck for your future events. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Said Mujtaba Hussain sir, for your kind remarks. We are actually running out of time, and I would apologize not to take any questions right now. I think discussion itself was quite comprehensive and detailed. So let me invite uh, our distinguished guest and the original host of this Cryosphere Pavilion, Pam Pearson, who is Director, International Cryosphere Climate Initiative. We have been talking about the cryosphere in HKH, which covers almost 20% of the entire region. And unfortunately, this 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature rise appears to be too hot for the region. So I would really like to listen to Pam, uh, that the cryosphere in the HKH is also being affected by the climate change. And your advice on raising the concern at the global level would be highly appreciated. So please, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, distinguished representatives. Thank you for joining us in the Cryosphere Pavilion today. This is very much a joint effort, and I would very much like to thank ICIMOD for being one of our partners and sponsors in the pavilion this year, as it also was at COP25 and COP26. And I would like to actually second the remarks of especially Nepal and Pakistan in terms of the need to bring mountain concerns into this forum. The mountains need more attention in this forum as well as other forums. The impacts of climate change here are as irreversible as when you look at ice sheets, when you look at things at sea level rise, but far more people are affected. We're talking billions. You know, sea level rise of a meter or two, which we're probably looking at, may displace 200 million people. But there are mountain people and people reliant on downstream resources that are being displaced even today. And we're talking more than 3 billion people in all of the mountain regions. Last year, Nepal and Bhutan, as well as Peru and Iceland, were key in trying to raise these issues at COP26. Those efforts have begun to come to some fruition at this COP. And next week, a coalition of mountain and polar and low-lying countries hope to launch a ministerial level group that will try to bring these in a cross-cutting manner. But as you say, these are not cross-cutting sometimes means let's ignore it, right? And we're talking about bringing it in truly into the negotiations. The tentative name of the group will be Ambition on Melting Ice, because we're really trying to bring together these groups, these impacts, because there are implications not just for mitigation, because as you say, 1.5 is too high for all of these regions. If we stay at 1.5, the loss and damage will be extreme. So then you bring in loss and damage. If we're not realistic about what we're looking at even 1.5 degrees, our adaptation efforts will not be sufficient. And so it really does belong in these talks, and we hope for that to happen during these coming days. And I'm happy to speak to any of the honored delegates who perhaps have not yet been contacted about this new coalition. To please feel free to talk to me at any time over the next couple of weeks, or to especially the leadership of Iceland and Chile, who are helping to spearhead this right now. Finally, again, I would very much like to thank ICIMOD for these 2 days of events. 2 days are insufficient to cover everything that is going on, but ICIMOD has a clear role in coordinating and leading in the region and helping the region to have a greater voice in all of these different forums, not just the UNFCCC, but as Deepshika said earlier, biodiversity, all of the forums need a more concerted effort from the HKH and other mountain regions. So thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you so much, Pam Pearson, for your kind remarks. I think with this, we have reached to the end of our this specific event today here. A couple of things as a reflection, as a sum up from the discussion, is that there is a consensus and great agreement that HKH is being affected by the climate change. If the global community succeeds to keep the temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade, but still it will be very high for the HKH region because of the elevation dependent warming. The impact of warming because of this temperature is predicted to be like double. It will be having impacts in other parts of the world. So cryosphere being 20% of the entire region is really vulnerable, highly vulnerable to the climate change. And we all need to work together with the international partners, investors, financing agencies, and the platforms to take this effectively at the global level in the discussions which our leaders from the region will be having in terms of negotiations and review of the progress to UNFCCC targets, NDCs and net zero targets. So we expect that together we can keep the HKH in particular and the mountains in general safe against the increasing temperatures. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you, speakers, especially for your participation and for your excellent remarks. Let's hope to work together and make HKF a safe, resilient, greener, and inclusive for all living in the HKH and beyond HKH, a peaceful area, a prosperous area for all of us. Thank you so much.